Great. So we can start?
Yes.
Lovely. Lovely. Hey everyone, welcome back to Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. I'm your host Avik, and today we are diving into a topic that impacts every single one of us. So whether we realize it or not, our relationships at work. Think about it. Like we spend a massive chunk of our lives in the workplace, and the quality of those professional relationships can make or break not just our success, but also our health, happiness, productivity as well. Am I correct, right? So, yes. Also, how do we navigate those complex dynamics? That is also a good question, right? And how do we build authentic, meaningful connections in the environments often driven by the competition, deadlines, and stress, right? So, well, I couldn't think of anyone better to help us unpack this than today's guest, Morag Barrett. So, welcome to the show, Morag.
Avik, I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Lovely, lovely. So, before we start our conversation, I'll quickly love to introduce you to all of our listeners. Dear listeners, Morag is an executive coach, leadership expert, and the award winning author of Cultivate, the power of winning relationships, and you, me, we. Why we all need a friend at work and how to show up as one. So she coached over 10,000 leaders across 20 countries and is recognized as a thought leader in shaping the workplace cultures that thrive on connection. So Morag, welcome to Healthy Mind and Healthy Life. And it's such an honor to have you here today. And I can't wait to dive deep into this today's topic. Welcome to the show.
It's going to be a fun conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, so I'll quickly start with your book, You, Me, We. I really love this three-word thing, you, me, and we. It's really heavy. So you talk about the importance of having a friend at the work. So why is that so crucial? I mean, according to you, why is so crucial for both our mental health and the professional success?
Well, you said it in the introduction. I think for many of us, we make the assumption wrongly that if I just work harder and faster, I can get things done. And whether that's at work, in life, in our social networks, it's a me first mindset that often leads to isolation, loneliness, disconnection, and miscommunication. And so in our book, You, Me, We, Why We All Need a Friend at Work and How to Show Up as One, because it's not just about having friends, it's how do you show up as a friend for others. My friends at work and I talk more about how do we do that in a professional workplace. And I think that's where it can become even more fraught. And those politics silos and turf wars can be even more damaging to individual leadership reputation and team success.
Exactly. And also on this, what about the people who feel like their workplace is too much competitive? So, what do you think?
Well, your success, it doesn't matter whether you're a solopreneur, as I was at the beginning of the launch of SkyTeam, or you're working within 1,000, 10,000 global organization. Your success is dependent on the words and actions of the people who work for and with you. And so whether you use the word friend or colleague or mentor or coach, doesn't it make sense that we would want to know, trust, and like each other so that we can work to deliver the goals and results that we're being asked to do? Whether that's the business goals, achieving a milestone, or our own individual career goals, we don't get to do this in a bubble. And so in you, me, we're challenging that mindset, which is me first. Can I win? Can I beat Avik and look better than he does? Because in the short term, that might get you gains, but in the long term, that is more likely to create barriers and result in others who no longer want to work with you because they're going to worry that they're going to be next for that proverbial stepping on and stepping over me versus stepping with and working with me. So for us, you can describe it how you like. We use the word friends because that has been used by the Gallup organization for more than 20 years as part of their engagement research. And question 10 on their 12 question survey is, do I have a best friend at work? And I've always hated that question. I was in finance, a very logical thinker. I was thinking, well, this is a place of business. We don't have time for friendship. We just got to get the work done. But I also hated it because it was passive. It allowed me to sit back and say, well, no, I don't have friends at work because Avik got that promotion, because my boss favors Avik over me, whatever story I'm telling myself. And that's why we reframed it in you, me, we, not about what are others doing for us, but am I showing up as a friend, not just for our colleagues, but a friend who can articulate my own needs, my own boundaries, my own dreams and hopes, so that ultimately we can be better together.
Wow, that's awesome. And I have to say, I think so many of our listeners can relate to this sense of isolation, whether they are working remotely or maybe in a corporation or even running their own business. It's such an important shift to take. Yeah,
It
that's
is. And it's interesting, Avik, because we have an ally mindset profile, a self-assessment that your listeners, your viewers of this conversation are more than welcome to contribute to our research. And you can do that at SkyTeam, SKYE, team.cloud/you, me, we. And of the more than 1,000 leaders from around the world that have completed the ally mindset profile, 20% say they have no friends at work. And so think about that for a moment. That's heartbreaking. Now, when things are going well, when you're meeting your goals, when the team and the business is performing, maybe that's okay. I'd argue otherwise. But what happens when things are going wrong? When the project is going off the rails, when you've just had some tough feedback, who are you going to turn to? And as you pointed out, especially when we're working in a hybrid environment, that distance can exacerbate that feeling of isolation, loneliness, and disconnection, and thereby undermine the results that we're all trying to achieve.
wow, exactly, very true. And like you mentioned about the ally mindset, can you break that down for us? I mean, um, what does it look like to show up as an ally in the workplace?
Well, this came out of my first book, Cultivate the Power of Winning Relationships, where I introduce a model called the relationship ecosystem. 4 relationship dynamics that we all experience at work at some point in our career. And those 4 dynamics are ally, supporter, rival, and adversary. And I'll leave you to read the book to learn more about those. But when the book came out, we were continuing to get inquiries from leaders saying, okay, get it. This is fabulous. It's transformed my team, but how do I show up as an ally? So we continued our research to understand what differentiates the best leaders and the best colleagues, the ones we want to work with again, and the high performing teams from others. So before I share the 5 practices of an ally mindset, I'm going to ask you, Avik, think about your career.
Yeah.
Think about a leader or a colleague that you would jump at the chance to work with again.
Mm.
And tell me, who comes to mind? And what is it about that person that makes them so memorable and special for you? What is it that they did or said that makes them the colleague that you would love to work with again?
Yeah, exactly. I can think of Definitely one of my colleague, though we are not working together right now. But yes, uh, I remember there was so basically colleagues, we call it colleagues, but at the end, uh, we gel with them. We share some of the bonding as well. So somehow helping each other or supporting in any sense, like suppose I know few things which maybe if someone to help me, I can reach out to that person. So definitely in that sense, I can tell, like, yes, these are few of the things which reminds of uh, my friend come colleague, you can say.
I love that. So while we're continuing our conversation, I challenge you and I challenge anybody listening to this conversation to send a message to that person that just says, hey, I was thinking about colleagues I'd love to work with again. You came to mind, and here's why. And it's going to guarantee a reply, but it'll make their day, and you will be making a deposit into that relationship bank account. But back to your question about what makes for an ally mindset. We've asked that question of thousands of leaders around the world in our leadership programs, in our executive coaching, and as part of our research for You, Me, We. And we found a clear theme emerged. Yes, how smart we are, how deep our technical knowledge, it matters. It's what gets us a seat at the table. But you think about what you said about your colleague. You didn't mention those. What you mentioned is how they made you feel. The fact that you know you could trust them, that if you were in a pickle, you could call them and they would help you out. And what other leaders say is that they gave me the tough feedback I needed to hear. They took a risk on me or saw potential in me before I did. And as we looked at all of that research, we identified 5 practices that make for an ally mindset, a friend at work, a go-to colleague. The first is abundance and generosity, and that's moving from a me first to a we first mindset. Do I care about your success as much as I do my own? Do I then offer my expertise, my time, my talents to mentor, to coach, to work with you so that we can be better together? The second is then connection and compassion. Do I see you as a human being or just merely a tool that I can leverage for my own success or our success? Do I know a little bit about your life story and journey outside of the name badge and the job title that you may have in this organization? In my case, for example, if you take the time to get to know me, I'm not just a leadership expert and an executive coach. I am also have 15 years in commercial finance that you might not know, and therefore expertise you can tap into. I am the mother of 3 6-foot tall boys. I'm a ballroom dancer and a classical musician. And so when we have connection and compassion, when we start to form a relationship beyond the transaction of the job, then we get to courage and vulnerability. And courage and vulnerability is important because all the companies I'm working with, the leadership teams I'm working with, are saying they want innovation and creativity. They're experiencing rapid change and want people to move fast in their jobs to deliver results. Well, I need to be brave to take those innovative risks, and I need to have vulnerability that mistakes might happen and I'm not going to be punished. But when you have abundance and generosity, connection and compassion, courage and vulnerability, then you get to candor and debate. Candor and debate is a willingness then to call out the elephant in the room, to give you warnings of impending disaster, to discuss the problems that may be holding us back versus pointing fingers and blame. Which then brings us to the 5th practice, which is action and accountability. Because all of this, it's not rocket science, but it's relationship science. It's easy to talk about, but do we follow through on the commitments that we make for each other? And do we also follow through on the commitments and the priorities that we need for ourselves? So
Exactly.
those are the 5 practices that we dive into in more detail in You, Me, We.
Yeah. Wow. That's so lovely. And one more thing is coming to my mind. Like on the flip side, what do you think are some of the common mistakes that people, or maybe that might prevent someone from being seen as an ally, even if they have the best intentions?
Well, I think you've nailed it there. Intentions and impact, 2 different things. So it may well be that just we've never been taught how
Mm,
to be a good colleague. If you think about our school lives, whether that's at high school or at university, much of it is a me first approach. Can I beat the exam board? Can I graduate in the top X% of my class? Can I get into that prestigious school? It is less about the reality of how business gets done, which is through teamwork and collaboration. So why doesn't it happen? Because we've never been taught. This might be the first time anybody's thought about, well, who am I dependent on for my success and what is the health of that relationship? And then there is that assumption of, well, Avik, you've been in your career 15 years or however long it is, you know how to do it. There's your desk, get on with it. Well, I
yeah.
think that is true. You knew how to do it at the last company in the last team. But what we should be doing is sitting down and talking about what's worked for you in the past. What can you expect in my team? Here's what you can expect from me as a boss. And often I'll hear leaders say, well, just go do your job, prove to me that you are worthy of trust, prove to me that you are a good colleague. And when I say, well, how long does that take? People say, oh, a year, 2 years. And I don't discount that. But at the rate of change in the world today, you think about how AI is impacting everything right now. We don't have 2 years to decide whether or not we're going to work together. Better to make it a choice to have those conversations now that say, okay, we're going to be on this project for the next 6 weeks or the next 6 months or the next 6 years. How are we going to work together? How are we going to resolve conflict? How do you want me to provide feedback? Here's how you can do that for me. And that accelerates the time to working together more effectively and reduces the risk of miscommunication, disconnection, and misaligned goals or work.
Wow, that's awesome. Lovely. And also, like for the leaders to who want to future proof their workplaces, what's the one piece of advice you'd give them about cultivating strong professional relationships?
It's easier than you think. Relationships are cultivated one conversation, one person at a time, and they happen in the moments between the work. So already we did one with the who's the colleague you'd jump at a chance to work with. And I said, send them a message. And if you haven't done it, do it now. I guarantee that's how you nurtured that relationship. The next time you're on a Zoom or a Teams call or in a meeting in an office with a colleague that maybe you've been working with for weeks or months, but you don't know their name, you don't know if they like dogs or cats, take a moment to have the small talk so that you can have the big results together. So those are just 2 tips. It's being curious, leaning in, and sharing a little bit more about what makes you special, and then being curious about what's happening and what makes others special that can transform your relationships at work.
Wow, that's really awesome. That's really, really awesome, I have to say. And also, I mean, before we wrap, uh, what's the biggest mindset shifts leaders need to make to prioritize relationships um, without sacrificing the results?
So I think it's both. You don't get results without relationships. You will get average if you only have average relationships. So
Mm.
this isn't about doing more work, Avik. It is about using the time we already have at work more thoughtfully and deliberately. taking those 5 minutes to reconnect with people on Zoom, taking the few minutes to send the message that says, hey, I was thinking about you, how's it going? To check in on people on how they're doing. Don't just check in on our colleagues about what they are doing.
Mm. Wow, great, lovely. So, Murad, this conversation has been absolutely enlightening, I'd say. And I love how you have taken something that can feel so intangible and like relationships and uh, made it actionable and achievable for anyone who wants to thrive in their workplace. That's really lovely. And so here I'd love to mention like the listeners who are listening right now, or maybe you will listen later. Think about the relationship you have at the work, as already Morag has mentioned. Uh, are there are they lifting you up, or are you showing up as an ally to others? Start small. Take one idea from today's episode and put it into a practice. Definitely, I'm gonna do it right now after this episode for sure. I'll do text that colleague of mine, colleague friend, I would say, definitely, and it's really a good way to start something small. So, and dear listeners, as always, I mention if this episode has resonated with you, share it with a friend, colleague, or even your boss as well. Let's spread the message of connection and collaboration. That's very important. And do not forget to subscribe to Healthy Mind and Healthy Life for more inspiring conversations. So until next time, this is your host reminding you to nurture your mind, body, and the relationships that make life meaningful. So till then, take care and have a great day. Thank you so much.